I need a break. Something new to play. Man. I gotta stop buying Humble Bundles. Toy Odyssey. This looks interesting. Metroidvania style game about toys. 30,000 lines of skippable dialogue. Not a lot of confidence in your storytelling when you immediately tell players that they can bypass it. You know what? Sure, I like action platformers. Let's give it a whirl. Just a day of this. A day of play. You ever have a group project where everyone was really dedicated and passionate about the final project, but there was that one person who was dedicated to doing the absolute minimum? Toy Odyssey feels like the product of that group. Character artist, fantastic. Soundtrack person, good work. Gameplay individual, gold star. Level designer, you lazy fuck. So Toy Odyssey opens with this family moving into a new home. Little Felix here is excited about the whole prospect, where Dad here just appears to be looking at his wife's tits. After they move in, little Felix finds a toy named Brand, who comes alive at night.
What? What's going on? Where am I? I feel like I've been here before, but I can't quite place it.
That was not the voice I was expecting to come out of that. Brand soon learns that something about the house has brought toys to life, and that lost toys in particular are turned corrupted and malicious. Brand vows to defend his owner and sets about combating the darkness. A giant spider? That's not so much a harbinger of malevolent forces as it is a sign of living in Australia. This game heavily borrows inspiration from Castlevania in terms of its combat. You have a primary weapon that varies in attack speed depending on what you have equipped, and an offhand weapon that is a projectile tied to an energy bar. New weapons can be crafted once you find the appropriate blueprints, or as quest rewards from toys you save. It's a decent system that is weighed down by the other aspects of the game. You see, I don't know how you look at a game series like Castlevania, where enemies are carefully placed to provide challenge for the player, and say, hey, let's toss level design out the window and make everything procedurally generated. Yeah, it's one of those games. Every time you venture from the safety of the bedroom, you're at the mercy of a house made out of RNG. The layout of the house is different each time you play, and the rooms themselves have randomly generated platforms and enemies to go along with it. If you manage to make it back to the bedroom, then the current layout will remain, but die, or quit the game, and the house will rearrange itself to something completely different. I don't have a problem with procedural generation inherently, but this game relies too heavily on it. For starters, there's absolutely no cohesion in the platforming, as it's clearly random elements thrown together. I mean, look at this. I've seen custom CSGO maps with more cohesion. The best games use procedural generation as a tool for level design rather than a substitute. Roguelikes like Binding of Isaac and Risk of Rain make it so that no two runs are the same because the thrill is in acquiring a random combination of crazy loot and seeing how long you can last. They're designed to be very pick up and play. The problem with Toy Odyssey is that there's really no reason for it to be procedurally generated. If you die, you keep the loot you acquired, and the only thing you really lose is the current layout of the house. This only really matters when you have a quest that requires you to go to a certain specific room of the house. If you die, the room shifts position with the rest of the house, meaning you have to work your way to its new location. So what you ultimately lose from dying in this game is time. Shouldn't I be excited to see what new map is generated for me? To see what strange new setting I may uncover? Rather than annoyed that I have to slog through a random number generator's idea of what a house looks like. There's also a crafting system in this game, because of course there is. New weapons can be crafted provided you have the necessary blueprints, which are acquired randomly from chests. Again, The RNG bites this mechanic in the ass because you rarely acquire blueprints in sequence. You could acquire a blueprint for the most powerful version of the longsword and have no way of crafting it until you stumble across the other blueprints for all the swords in between. So the powerful blueprint just ends up being a dead drop. It's like when I get a skin for Widowmaker in Overwatch. I have 0 playtime as Widowmaker because I am secure in the knowledge that I can't snipe for shit. There's also a base building mechanic, where you can use resources to build structures that help fortify the safe haven that is the bedroom. Chess pieces serve as your militia, and need to be rescued from cupboards. At first, I thought I'd actually get to see my defenses and soldiers in action during a base raid. But all the attacking plays out while you're away. Losing a raid means you lose resources. And as far as I can tell, the defenses didn't really help that much because I was still getting raided on a fairly regular basis, including when you leave the game and come back. On top of that, the resources you often need drop so rarely and randomly that most of my defenses went unbuilt for the majority of my playtime. There was not even a guarantee that I'd keep these rare resources because of the constant raiding. So, once again, you lose time to the RNG. Really, it just seems like the roguelike elements only exist to inflate playtime in this game. Look at the list of mission descriptions. Dependent on RNG, dependent on RNG, dependent on RNG. So little is within the player's control. It took me 3 hours to finish the first objective because I kept walking into rooms where seemingly every enemy in the game just spawned on top of me. I took a break and started scrolling through Steam reviews to see what other people were saying, which is where I learned that I could actually level up my stats through the inventory screen. Look, discussions of video games getting too hand-holdy and hour-long tutorials aside, if I have to read a Steam review to learn a key feature of the game, someone's fucked up. It's just a shame, because I do like the combat, even if it is just cribbed straight from Castlevania. Timing a well-placed blow with a powerful weapon is satisfying, and the sound design is appropriately creepy, even if the music intrudes too often in cutscenes.
You noticed, haven't you? The house's structure completely changes each night if you fall.
Like, for real?
The art direction is lovely, but I would have liked it if the Lost Toys looked a little more messed up. The only one that looks evil is this nightmare and the teddy, which just gives me Bear flashbacks. If the developer had simply rejected the roguelike elements and made a linear action platformer about toys battling the forces of darkness, I'm sure I and many of others would have loved it. This is another moment where the procedural generation is working against the other elements of the game. This car's only attack is to charge at you, but the game put it in a spot where it can't do that, so it dies never having fulfilled its true purpose. Alright, in my day of play with Toy Odyssey, I played for 7 hours. Even then, I don't feel like I progressed all that much. I was hampered more by the randomness of the house than I was any lack of skill on my part. It took me 3 hours to get all the mechanics down, and even then I feel like I missed some things because of how so many of them went unexplained. I didn't even know you could switch on lights until the 5th hour, as the light switches just blend into the background and were often placed in inaccessible areas. Will I come back to it? I could conceive a situation where I might sit down with this again, if only because it does work as a solid time killer, and there is something vaguely enchanting about it, mostly from the aesthetic. Not the highest of praise, I know, but take what you can get. And, most importantly, did I have fun? Yes, but with some caveats. I didn't hate my time with Toy Odyssey, and I could certainly see how others would enjoy it more, but the moments I had that were fun were within the first hours of the game before I realized that was all the game had to offer. After that, what moments of fun I had were very minor. Navigating a jumping puzzle, beating a tough enemy without them hitting you, successfully avoiding death. But those aren't moments that are unique to Toy Odyssey. Sometimes the procedural generation makes for a cohesive level, other times it's a clusterfuck. And I really do like the aesthetic of it. It's just one of those games where the individual aspects are greater than the sum of its parts. I'd say if you got it in a bundle or on sale, it's worth a look, but for its $15 asking price, I feel like I'd have some pangs of buyer's remorse. Oh yeah, and this happened. Been a while since a game's done that to me.